All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back for another deep dive.
Always exciting to be back.
Today, we're going to be looking at something that, a lot of our listeners might be encountering for the first time in their Python projects.
Right.
And that is the idea of grouping shapes together.
Okay.
So, we've talked about individual shapes, we've talked about properties of shapes,
Hmm.
and now we can even start putting these things together into
Yes.
like collections.
Like a container, right.
Yeah,
You can have all sorts of things like you could have a circle, a star,
right.
a rectangle, and even some text.
Yeah, and so, the goal of today's deep dives is to really see what we can do with these. Not just that they exist and that we can, like, throw things in there,
Right.
but what are the ways that we can manipulate them? How can we use these groups to make our programs, more sophisticated, more dynamic, more fun?
Yeah, because the real power comes from how you can work with them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Not just that they contain stuff, but how you can interact with them and change them on the fly.
Okay, so, like, to kick things off, I think what's really interesting is that sometimes a group can almost act like it's one single shape itself.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right. So it's kind of like, if you think about like moving a character in a game or something, like your
Yeah.
character might be made up of, different shapes,
Different limbs, the head, the body.
but you move it all as one unit. And so Python groups actually have some pretty cool capabilities that let them do this. For instance, there's the to front and to back methods.
Yeah, and it's remarkable how these actions apply to the whole group instantly. So imagine, right, you've got this group and you put a star in there.
Okay.
You put maybe the text hi
Okay.
and a circle. And this entire group, is sitting behind let's say, a blue rectangle.
Okay.
So if you use the to front method, suddenly, boom,
Yeah.
the star, the hi, the circle, they all just jump in front of that rectangle as one unit. And if you want to send them back to back, they all go behind it again.
It's really cool visually because you can like tell that it's not just like shuffling each individual piece around. It's like taking the whole layer and just like moving it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's treating the group as a single visual layer,
Yeah.
and that's really powerful.
Yeah. Okay, so another really interesting one is the hits shape method. And this one is really cool because it starts to let us do some like interactive stuff.
Interactive, that's where it gets fun.
Mm.
So remember that group we had before?
Yeah.
Star, label, circle. Let's add something else to our scene. Let's throw in, say, a green triangle, and we'll make this triangle movable.
Okay.
Now here's where hit shape comes in. When that triangle overlaps with any shape inside our group,
Okay.
doesn't matter which one, boom, the color of every shape in the group, all of them, changes. Let's make them yellow, for example.
Ooh, that's cool.
And it's not about the triangle hitting the whole group as one big blob,
Yeah.
right? Even if it's just touching the tip of the star or the edge of the circle, the entire group reacts. Move the triangle away so it's not touching anything in the group, and they all revert back to their original colors.
So, I mean, this is really cool because now you can start to like imagine building games where you're checking if like,
Oh, yeah.
one thing has run into something else.
Absolutely.
But I know that our source material also brought up this really good point, which is what if we try to do that check a little bit differently? So instead of saying, group G dot hits shape triangle, what if we said triangle dot hits shape G?
Yeah, that's a fantastic quote, and it highlights a really important aspect of how hit shape works. It all comes down to perspective, to which element is doing the checking.
Okay.
When you use G hits shape triangle, you're essentially asking, is anything inside this group G currently bumping into that triangle? Yeah. But if you flip it and say triangle dot hits shape G, you're asking a different question. You're saying, is this single triangle hitting the entire group G as if it were one solid combined shape?
So it's like if you had glued all the pieces of the group together.
Exactly. And in our example, using that flipped version won't trigger the color change if the triangle's just touching one part of the group. It would only work if the triangle completely enveloped the entire group.
I see. So it really matters which shape is doing the checking. You have to think about what's doing the hitting and what's being hit.
Precisely. It's all about perspective.
Okay, so that makes total sense. Now, we've talked about how a group can act like a single shape in some ways, but how about changing what's inside the group after we've made it?
Right. Because groups are dynamic. We have these really neat methods that allow us to add new shapes, remove shapes, or even clear out the entire group all at once.
Very cool.
So let's start with group.add. This is how we put new things into our group.
So imagine, in our first demo here, we start with a group that's completely empty. Nothing's in it.
A blank canvas.
Yeah. And then every time we click the mouse, a new, let's say, blue circle with a nice black outline pops up right where we clicked. And each of those circles gets added to the group.
It's like we're stamping circles onto our canvas.
Yeah, exactly. So you click a few times, you get a few circles on the screen, and here's where you really see the power of the group. Try pressing the left or right arrow keys on your keyboard. What happens?
Well, if everything's working as it should,
Yeah.
you'll notice the entire cluster of circles, all those blue circles with the black outlines, they'll all move together horizontally.
As a group.
Exactly. And that's the proof, isn't it?
Yeah.
Those circles you just made by clicking, they're moving in sync with the group when you hit those arrow keys. They're not just floating there on their own. They've been successfully added to the group.
That answers a big question, right?
It really does.
Yeah.
It demonstrates that group.add is doing its job.
Now, what if we want to get rid of all those circles? Just wipe the slate clean.
For that, we have group.clear.
Perfect. So our second demo shows this in action. Click, 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 adding your blue and black circles. Then hit any key on your keyboard. Doesn't matter which one. And poof, all the circles vanish. Just like that.
Instantaneous.
Yeah.
The clear method is very efficient. It empties the group entirely, no questions asked.
Nice and clean. Now, I think there's one more method for modifying groups that we need to look at, which is group.remove.
Yes. This is for when you want a little more control. Maybe you don't want to get rid of everything in the group, just one specific shape.
Okay, so imagine this. Our third demo sets up a group with a red circle, a yellow circle, and a teal circle, all hanging out together. Then there's a separate green circle off to the side. If you press the R key on your keyboard, that green circle disappears, gone. But press A, and it pops right back into existence.
What's happening behind the scenes is that the code is specifically telling the group to remove that green circle when you press A and add it back in when you press A.
That's so cool.
So you can really micromanage which shapes are part of your groups at any given time.
Awesome. All right. So we've seen how to make a whole group act like a single shape and how to change what's inside a group, adding things, removing things. But our source material mentions this thing called app.group. What is that all about?
Right. So app.group is a bit like a default holding area. Think of it this way. If you create a shape in your code, but you don't explicitly say, hey, put this shape into this specific group that I've created.
Right.
Then Python automatically says, okay, I'll just put it in app.group for now.
Okay.
It's like a catch-all.
Yeah.
And our fourth demo really highlights this. You're clicking away, creating those familiar blue and black circles. But if you look closely at the part of the code that runs when you click the mouse, you won't see any instruction that says, add this circle to a specific group called, my group or something like that.
Right. It's just making the circle.
Exactly. They're just being created directly. And because of that, they automatically end up in app.group. Now, here's a key thing to notice. In this demo, if you press the letter C, something else disappears, along with the circles, the labels at the top of the screen.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's because those labels, just like the circles you were drawing, were also automatically added to app.group when the program started. So when you run app.group.clear, it doesn't discriminate. It wipes out everything that's in that default group. Circles, labels, the whole lot.
So that kind of brings up this point, right? It can be handy to just wipe the slate clean.
Right.
But sometimes maybe that's not what you want.
Exactly. You might have elements you want to keep on the screen, and app.group.clear is a bit of a blunt instrument.
Yeah. So it sounds like while app.group can be useful for some quick actions, if you want finer control over what appears and disappears, especially as your projects get more complex, it's generally a good idea to create your own specific groups and manage them directly.
Precisely. That way, you're the one in charge. You decide exactly which shapes belong together, giving you a lot more control over how they behave and how you can manipulate them.
Great. Okay, so let's take a minute to quickly summarize all the cool stuff we've learned about groups in this deep dive. We saw how groups can use methods like to front and to back to move all their parts together, and hits shape to detect collisions with any of the individual shapes inside. Then we explored how we can change what's inside a group, adding things with add, clearing them all out with clear, and removing specific shapes with remove. And finally, we took a look at the automatic app.group and how it works, and why using your own groups often gives you more control and flexibility.
These tools really do open up a whole world of possibilities for creating dynamic and interactive graphics. You can build things that respond to user input, maybe based on mouse clicks or key presses, and you can make things change in really interesting ways over time. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it is. And I think it really pushes us to think beyond just creating static images, and starts to let us build things that feel more like, well, like actual programs. So, to all our listeners out there, here's a challenge for you. Now that you know how to work with groups, how to move them, change them, detect collisions, what kind of cool interactive projects can you come up with? What would you build? Think about using these techniques. Maybe you could move a group of shapes based on where the mouse is, or add new elements to a group during a game. Or maybe you could use add and remove to make things appear and disappear to create animations.
The possibilities are pretty much endless. It all comes down to your creativity and how you combine these tools.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Python groups. We'll see you next time for more explorations into the exciting world of code.